You wake up slowly and you feel it. The heaviness in your knees, the dull ache in your lower back, the stiffness in your feet that used to move with confidence. Walking, once automatic, now feels like something you have to prepare for. Maybe you hold the edge of the bed before standing. Maybe you pause at the top of the stairs, calculating each step. You're not lazy. You're not weak. But something is changing, and no one warned you just how unsettling that change would feel. And then the thoughts come. The quiet ones. The dangerous ones. And maybe I'm just too old. And maybe it's time to slow down for good. And maybe I've already done all I could. But I'll tell you something. Those thoughts aren't truth. They're surrender disguised as acceptance. And there's a world of difference between the two. Now, if you're in your 60s, 70s, or even your 80s, and you've found that your steps have become shorter, your pace slower, or your desire to move less urgent, you're not alone. It happens. But here's the thing. You cannot let it define you. There's still an immense amount of strength, of clarity, of power that can be cultivated if you know how to shift your strategy. Because when walking becomes harder, you don't stop. You adapt. You reframe. You take different actions that still honor movement, still challenge the body and the brain, and still move you toward life, not away from it. This is where most people make a terrible mistake. They withdraw. They stop pushing. They think less movement means the end of movement altogether. But that's when your real test begins. I want to tell you about a man named Gerald. He was 78 when he came to one of my lectures, shuffling, quiet, holding onto the back of the seat in front of him before sitting down. I noticed him because of how slowly he moved. And I noticed him again at the end because he waited until the entire crowd had cleared before trying to stand. I asked him if he was all right, and he smiled and said, "I'm not what I used to be." And I looked at him and said, "Neither is a forest after a fire, but it still grows." What I said surprised him. Maybe it surprises you. But let's think through it. Forests that burn often come back more diverse, more resilient, more alive than before. Why? Because the damage forces adaptation. The loss of the old structure makes room for a new one. And aging, when approached with courage, is exactly that. So if you're walking less these days, don't treat it as a signal to decline. Treat it as a signal to evolve. Your body is asking for something new, not to give up, but to engage differently. Here's the first thing I urge you to consider. If walking is limited, begin training your balance. Because balance isn't just a physical capacity, it's a psychological metaphor. We need to maintain balance in every area of life, emotionally, spiritually, socially. And when the body loses balance, the mind often follows. But here's the beautiful thing. Balance can be trained at any age. You can stand near a chair and lift one leg for 10 seconds, then the other. You can close your eyes while standing and gently shift your weight from side to side. These tiny acts wake up your nervous system. They sharpen your coordination. And in doing so, they reduce your fear of movement. You don't have to walk 5 miles to build strength. You just have to challenge your center of gravity in small, deliberate ways every day. Gerald started doing this. For 2 weeks, that's all he did. Balance. Training. By the 3rd week, he was walking down the street again, slowly but without holding onto the railing. And more importantly, he told me something I'll never forget. He said, "For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control again." And that's the point, isn't it? To reclaim control. Not over everything, but over what is still possible. Now, the second thing to consider is deceptively simple. Breathe with intention. You may not realize this, but as walking becomes harder, breathing often becomes shallower. The lungs begin to contract less and oxygen flow diminishes. And when oxygen flow diminishes, the brain receives less energy. The muscles fatigue faster. The mind fogs. And what do people say? "I'm just tired today." But it's not just tiredness, it's under-oxygenation. So here's what I recommend. Sit up straight every morning. Put one hand on your chest, the other on your belly, and breathe deeply. In through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out through your mouth for 6. Do that 10 times. It takes less than 5 minutes, but it sends a clear message to your body. I am still vital. I am still commanding this vessel. Breath is life. And when you take it consciously, you are reminding every cell in your body that you are still here, still fighting, still present. Now, here's the third shift. You need to engage your hands. Why your hands? Because in many aging individuals, as walking becomes more difficult, so does the use of fine motor skills. And when those fade, we lose the confidence to engage with the world. But your hands are a gateway to movement, to creativity, to purpose. I'm not talking about doing push-ups or lifting heavy weights. I'm talking about meaningful handwork, knit, paint, journal. When you use your hands every day with intention, you are not just keeping your fingers nimble. You are strengthening neural pathways that fight off cognitive decline. You are keeping your agency. The world is still touchable, still moldable, still something you can participate in. And there is profound emotional power in that realization. Gerald took up whittling, wood carving. His hands weren't strong at first, but every day he tried. 3 months later, he brought me a little carving of a wolf. I used to feel like the old man in the wheelchair, he said, and now I feel like the wolf watching the woods. Do you see? That's the transformation I'm talking about. The fourth thing is this: speak your thoughts out loud, especially in the morning. Because when walking slows down, so does social interaction. And when you speak less, your mind becomes cluttered. Speech isn't just about communicating with others. It's about organizing your inner world. So if you live alone, or if you're quieter now than you used to be, make it a habit to say your thoughts out loud. Talk through what you're going to do today. Ask yourself what you're grateful for. Say your worries and then say your intentions. This verbalization activates parts of the brain that keep you emotionally flexible and cognitively sharp. And if you have someone in your life to talk to, do so. Don't isolate. Don't let silence become your dominant environment, even if it feels awkward, even if you stumble over your words. Keep speaking, because people who stop talking tend to stop thinking clearly, and people who stop thinking clearly slowly disconnect from life. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, reconnect with your reason to rise. Movement, walking, standing, striving. It's not just physical. We rise when we have something worth rising for. And so many people lose their will to move because they've lost sight of what moves them inside. Gerald told me that after his wife passed, he stopped getting up early. What's the point? He said, and that's the enemy. A life without a point. But there's always a point. A grandchild, a friend, a garden that needs tending, a book that needs finishing, a neighbor who needs a call, a God who still listens, a version of yourself who still wants to make things right. You must find that. You must fight for it. Because that reason, that aim, that's what pulls you out of the chair when your legs ache. That's what whispers, let's go, when everything else says a stay. Purpose doesn't have to be grand, but it must be real. It must live in your chest and refuse to be quiet. So if you've been walking less, don't despair. Don't label it the beginning of the end. Instead, let it be the beginning of something new. Train your balance. Breathe like you mean it. Use your hands to create. Speak your world into clarity. And remember what you're still here to do. Because here's the truth. Aging isn't a countdown, it's a recalibration. And the people who live longest and most fully are not the ones who walk the farthest. They're the ones who learn how to keep moving in spirit, even when the body changes course. So don't let your days get smaller. Don't settle into stillness. There's more life left in you than you think. I've seen it. I've felt it. And if you're still breathing, so can you. And if this message resonated with you, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's struggling. Someone who's slowed down and thinks it's all downhill from here. Remind them and yourself that even if the path changes, the journey continues. And if you want more truth like this, raw, honest, and hopeful, then subscribe. We're just getting started.